Where were you when Nintendo decided to release a Zelda first-person shooter? This is Link's Crossbow Training, a game released in 2007 for the Nintendo Wii. Link's Crossbow Training exists in a place I like to call no man's land. It's not good enough to be considered an all-time classic, it's not bad enough to be a joke for people to laugh about, and it wasn't unpopular enough when it was released for nerds to call it an overlooked hidden gem. Link's Crossbow Training, or as it's known in Japan, Link's Bowgun Training, just exists. Strangely, this game made by a Japanese video game company actually came out in North America first in November 2007, and Japan didn't get the game until roughly 5 months later in May of 2008. Even Australia got this game before Japan did. Technically, Zelda Twilight Princess was the first Zelda game to be released for the Wii. In fact, it was even a launch title for the system, but originally Twilight Princess was developed as a GameCube title, and after being delayed for a year, it finally got released, but it was actually released first on the Wii, and then on the GameCube about 2 weeks later. However, personally, I consider Link's Crossbow Training to be the first true Wii Zelda, as it was the first one they released that was specifically designed for the system. Do you guys remember the Wii channel startup intros that games had? Once you clicked on the channel, each game would give a short little intro. Mario Kart Wii! Woohoo! Usually there'd be a little bit of animation, maybe some sound effects, there might be some voice clips, and a jingle, just to get you hyped for the game. This is the one for Twilight Princess. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but check out the one for Link's Crossbow Training. Absolutely majestic. Link's Crossbow Training is very much an asset recycling job of stuff from Twilight Princess. This isn't anything new though, as Zelda games take a long time to develop. So I guess the developers figured, hey, might as well get our money's worth and double dip on the game assets. We saw this with Majora's Mask, which runs on the Ocarina of Time engine. We also saw this with Tears of the Kingdom, which uses quite a bit from the previously released Breath of the Wild. And we even got some triple dip action when Nintendo released 2 Zelda games, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, which reused quite a bit of graphics and mechanics from Link's Awakening. Link's Crossbow Training is definitely the weirdest of these games though, as the rest of those were full-fledged adventures with puzzles, swordplay, and various places to explore. This is a game where Link has a crossbow that shoots like an assault rifle. Speaking of guns, one of the early ideas for what eventually became Link's Crossbow Training actually did feature Link with a gun in a Terminator-style time travel story. Honestly, it could work. Link's Crossbow Training released for a pretty cheap price of about $20 USD, and it came bundled with a submachine gun-like accessory for the Wii called the Wii Zapper. One of the earlier prototypes for the Wii Zapper looked like a sawed-off shotgun, and I'm kind of upset that they didn't go with this one. The name Wii Zapper is an obvious reference to a previous gun accessory that Nintendo released, the pistol-shaped light gun called the NES Zapper. Unlike the NES Zapper, the Wii Zapper doesn't have any sort of cool technology inside. It's literally a piece of plastic that you put your Wiimote and nunchuck inside. It honestly doesn't feel bad to use, though you may want to consider sitting down and resting your elbows on your legs so you don't get tired from holding it. There were plans to include a rumble feature in the Wii Zapper, but it would have required batteries, which would have driven up the cost of using the thing. The Wii Zapper and Zelda really do go hand in hand, since it was one of the Twilight Princess developers who came up with a prototype that would eventually inspire the creation of the Wii Zapper. Oh, I missed the days of the dumb accessories for the Wii. A Wii collection really wasn't complete without one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The Wii is a great console for first-person shooters because you can point the Wii remote at the screen and use that for aiming. It adds an extra layer of tactile feel to the game that really helps you connect with it more. Zelda games and first-person shooters actually have a really interesting history, as one of the original creators for the Zelda series, Shigeru Miyamoto, actually envisioned Ocarina of Time as a first-person game, as he felt it would make the game more immersive. Ocarina of Time does allow you to go into first person, but it's more like an extra feature rather than the main attraction. But finally, with Link's Crossbow Training, the idea of an FPS Zelda finally came to life. Well, I mean, most of the stages are actually in third person, but An FPS Zelda is obviously very different from the usual Zelda affair, so the game was titled Link's Crossbow Training. There's no The Legend of Zelda in the title because this is a spin-off, and the training at the end is to imply that this is a game that's good for beginners who aren't familiar with the FPS genre. First-person shooters were popular in the States in the 90s and 2000s, so a part of the reason why it was released was to popularize first-person shooters in Japan. The Wii being such a casual, friendly console, and Zelda being such a big name that could draw a lot of people in, made Link's Crossbow Training the perfect introduction to the first-person shooter genre. Link's Crossbow Training is a pretty easy game. Some of the later levels might give you some trouble, but it's nothing crazy. Each level is divided into 3 stages, and at the end of the 3rd stage, your score is tallied up. You need a score of at least 20,000 to get a bronze medal and unlock the next level. You get a higher score by hitting targets accurately and hitting targets in a row without missing, which ups your combo multiplier. And by performing certain tasks, you can get these Triforce bonuses, which give a ton of points. If you have a keen eye, you can even destroy some items in the background to get some extra points. If you want to blow up a ton of stuff at the same time, you can hold and release the fire button to launch a bomb arrow. If you prefer finesse over mass destruction, then you can zoom in for more accuracy at the cost of decreased awareness of your surroundings. Dealing with the various threats in the surrounding environment is a big part of the game. You have all sorts of enemies that can potentially attack you, like Stalfos, Bulblins, Bokoblins, and Dark Nuts? Okay, these names can't be real. Each stage can be one of 3 types. A stage where the game is in first person, a stage where the game is in third person and you can't manually move Link around besides rotating him, and a stage where the game is in third person and you can move Link around with the analog stick. All of the stage types feel unique in a way. The first-person stages are your timeless arcade-like gun game affair. The stationary third-person stages require you to rotate Link to take out enemies who attack from all around you, and the full motion stages where you can move freely are really dynamic since you have to look around the map to find enemies and move out of the way to dodge attacks. These stages play more like your typical shooter game. There are 9 levels with each having 3 stages, meaning there are 27 stages in the game. That sounds like a decent amount until you realize that each stage is only a little over a minute or so long. I finished the game in under an hour. Though to be fair, this game was released as a budget title for only $20 along with the Wii Zapper. And let's face it, right? The main reason why this game was made was probably to sell this piece of plastic to people. This is also the sort of game you play to see how high a score you can get on each stage, not the sort of game where you're trying to make it to the end credits. I mean, you can't make it to the end credits because there are none. Once you beat the final boss, the game just kicks you right back to the level select screen. There isn't even really a story to this game. It isn't even included in the official Zelda timeline. This is the same franchise, by the way, that managed to make a silly multiplayer side mode included on a handheld port of an old Super Nintendo game canon, but they can't do the same for Link's Crossbow Training. They even made Triforce Heroes canon. How many of you guys have actually played Triforce Heroes? I digress. Link's Crossbow Training is a fun game to just throw on for a few rounds and try and beat your high score, or maybe the high scores of friends and family. There's even a multiplayer mode so you can play with others, but it's the off-brand diet multiplayer where you take turns playing the game instead of playing it in real time together. We played a real-time multiplayer shooting game. I don't see why Link's Crossbow Training couldn't. It would have been fun and chaotic trying to shoot targets before your buddies can get to them. Speaking of other modes, there's also a practice mode where you can play individual stages and try to get a better score. Besides that though, there really isn't much to talk about here. Visually, the game looks like a Wii game. The music is solid. Link's Crossbow Training exists. At least I think so. I mean, I haven't really heard too many other people talking about it, which is ironic because this game sold over 2.5 million copies as of September 2008, so who knows how many units it ended up selling after that point. But even with all of its sales, it never really amounted to much more than a footnote in Zelda history. In any case, Link's Crossbow Training is a fun game. Thanks for watching, y'all, and have a great rest of your day.